Hello there. Week 8 has just finished. We are here to talk about everything that you've seen in MLS Matchday 8. Thank you for joining us on the Designated Pundits. Bob and Tamigley here with Scott Omer, breaking down some of the biggest stories from Matchday 8. We're going to start with the best and worst things we saw this week. Then we're going to go and talk about what we got right and what we got wrong in our prediction show. And then a few more stories at the end of the episode. So thank you guys for tuning in so much. Make sure if you are watching on YouTube, you hit that subscribe button and that bell so you get notified when we go live every Monday and Thursday with a recap and prediction show. And also make sure you head over to your favorite podcast platform, whatever that may be. Search the Designated Pundits. Make sure you tune in. That's going to help us bring you videos like this each and every week. Scott, back from Rome. How you doing?
I'm good. Doing surprisingly well, actually. I should be a lot more jet lagged than I am. So wins all around.
I think coming home would have been less jet lag. Going there should have been more, right?
I don't know.
Well, once you go halfway around the world, it doesn't really matter anymore.
Doesn't really matter anymore, I guess. But neither of them were really bad for me, which was a very pleasant surprise, actually. So
you're also not playing top flight soccer right now, so maybe
Oh, that's true.
Anyway, let's get into today's episode, MLS Week 8. Scott, why don't you start us out with the best thing you saw this week?
Ooh, the best thing I saw this week is actually it's a really good one. It's a weird thing. We don't have a clip of it because it's kind of a weird thing. It was the Columbus Crew playing out of the back. And this is a play out of the back sequence that didn't necessarily end up in a goal, but it really impressed me because Columbus Crew moved the ball literally the full width of the field, side to side, but inside of the space of their own, 18-yard box, just like very narrow or, shallow, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Very shallow, under pressure from St. Louis the whole time. But they just kept connecting passes, kept moving the ball. They were not flustered. They were unflappable, and they just played and played and played. And eventually they got the pass out onto the left wing, and that was the pass that broke the press. They were able to get up the field and establish, possession farther up. It's the kind of thing that I just think is so impressive. It's a great combination of team chemistry, team organization, good coaching, and individual skill. All the players being clean with their touches, calm on the ball, finding passes, finding solutions. I just think that's incredible, and it's a great thing to see inside of Major League Soccer.
Yeah, Columbus is moving to that 5-man back line. Wilfred Nazi absolutely knows how to organize that. And, he's getting the results. Arfston with the assist in this one. You did have Daniel Gazdag. I guess they're preparing to have him, as their new number 10. This team is clicking on all cylinders, and they're not super overpowered. They're not winning by 6 or 7 goals. They're just beating the opponent in front of them, and that's kind of good enough. So Columbus Crew defense looking really good there. When I talk about the best thing I've seen this week, Scott, did we lose you? We lost Scott. Let's kick him out. Hopefully he can find himself back in. Up there he is. When I go to talk about my best of the week, I'm going to talk about Brian White. Goal fest. 4 goals, 2.3 XG. He's leading Vancouver to a 5-1 victory. They are now 6-1-1 on the season. They are absolutely the real deal. White himself has 6 goals. And if I remember correctly, I thought I was seeing a ghost there. He gave away a penalty that would have given him 4 goals in the match. And although he gave the penalty away, he couldn't stop himself from scoring the 4th time later on in the 82nd minute. Could have taken it himself, could have gotten 5. The goal was blocked, actually, so it could have been even worse. Vancouver could have finished 6-1 on the day. They just absolutely destroyed Austin. This is going to be a really tough team to play. Geographically, being West Coast, the most northern team, and, I think the furthest travel that you can make is, there to Miami. It's all the things are looking good for Vancouver. And while the other Canadian teams are way underperforming, 4.76 XG in this match. So it wasn't even one of those times that you score 6 on like 4 or 5 bad shots. No, they played absolutely exceptional. The new guy, Sabi, is playing really well too.
Yeah, this team continues to just function at a very high level all around. They do everything well. They have good players in all of the positions. Not too many guys that you would consider to be like superstars. I think even Brian White, there's an element of where you watch him play and you don't consider him maybe in the same breath as some of the other big names in the league, even though he continues to perform at that level. So maybe a little unfair to him on that, but they're just so good at everything that they do when they are having their day.
Yeah, absolutely love that. They were talking about Brian White on MLS 360, saying like, if you could guarantee that production from any player overseas, any player, even a superstar, what would he be going for? How many dozens of millions of dollars would that contribution cost?
Oh, it would be like a $10 to $15 million signing at the minimum, I think.
I think that's absolutely, like, if you can guarantee that, because everyone else that's getting signed, and I have a couple players to go off on a little bit later who might be underperforming a little bit. You can't predict anything. You can't sign Insigne and be like, oh, he's guaranteed to score 15 goals this season. But there are a few players like Brian White, the little bit underappreciated. And if I really want to touch on one underappreciated player, like a player like Daniel Gazdag, Philadelphia's leading goal scorer who just switched teams now for a criminally low price. It just doesn't make any sense. Like these are players that this is. And nothing's guaranteed in soccer, but there are things that are really close, right?
Sure. And players, there are players who have the background, they have the skill set, but the history of doing it, right? Somebody like Daniel Gazdag is a guy who has the history of doing it year after year.
And yet someone like Brandon Vasquez, who's done it a season and a half in his whole life, is seen as some superstar prospect, and we're kind of over, oh yeah, he's an American kid. Well, yeah, but he's also really, really good. And I like to see that, especially being an ex-Red Bull player. The way he presses, the way he gets after the ball on offense, I think he would step right into the squad right now. Like, I think that he could step, like, you can't replicate that everywhere, but I think he is the missing piece for Red Bulls. Like, he, luckily enough, we kept Barlow for him.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, though, because I think that's one of the things about this Vancouver squad is that everybody is a participant all of the time. And Brian White, in a lot of ways, embodies that because he doesn't take any plays off. He presses, he works, he gets back and defends on set pieces and stuff like that. He's a very all-around team player. And he also happens to be scoring at an incredible rate right now.
If you had told me that Gold was going to be out and that this was going to continue, I wouldn't have believed you. And I would have been wrong.
For a while, yeah, but I mean, like, for a while in previous seasons, sometimes it did look like you needed that duo. It looked like Brian White needed Ryan Gauld to be the guy providing the service. Yeah. And Vancouver has figured that out. They have figured out how to live without Ryan Gauld for now. And they shouldn't have to do it forever. I'm sure they will get better when Ryan Gauld comes back, but they have figured that out.
Absolutely. Now, we touched barely on Philadelphia. I just kind of mentioned Gazdag's name, but that's one of the ones I kind of want to get into today because me and you haven't discussed this yet, even off air, what that kind of means to the team Philadelphia. And I talked to our correspondent from Philadelphia and kind of asked what the picture was because it doesn't seem like a whole lot of things are going right. They're selling players at a clip that I don't think is completely sustainable. And the players that they're bringing in, like Damiani, the Uruguayan player, I'm sure that's going to be pronounced wrong, 22-year-old, 3.7 XG so far, only 1 goal. He had 5 missed chances. 5 missed chances. That's like a clear shot on goal that you're scuffing. if Philadelphia's going to be in the selling market and they're selling players like Gazdag, then players they need bring in need to be contributing. And Bruno Damiani has not covered himself in glory so far for the squad. And every single week when I'm doing like my negative XG numbers, that I'm doing missed chance totals and stuff, his name keeps coming up. So, I mean, there's so many things you could touch on. What Gazdag is going to mean for his new squad, or, you know, what he's going to be leaving behind, and what could Philadelphia possibly be bringing in that's going to substitute for his talent.
I think it's an interesting one. I was thinking about Philadelphia myself earlier, and this is a team that hasn't scored 2 goals in a single game since March 8th, a 2-0 win over the New England Revolution. Yeah, there is a valid question. What is the plan in Philadelphia right now? I think we maybe asked that question at the beginning of the season when they got rid of Jim Curtin. It doesn't seem to be any clearer to me now. They started off really hot, and now they have broken that, whatever it was, and now they're really struggling to score goals, which was the thing that this team really needed to keep
that's
going.
all they had.
Yeah, because their defense is not very good. So Philadelphia is in a weird spot. I really don't understand what they're going for, and to let Gazdag go, and when it didn't look like Gazdag was looking to leave.
Yeah, that's the one for me. And I talked to, like I said, Jose Roberto Nunez, and he says the replacement's being worked on right now. And he said the 4/23 deadline is tight, but it's not impossible. Yeah, but sometimes you sign a player before you get rid of one. Like, isn't that like kind of how that works sometimes? Sometimes
you got to get rid of them for the money. I don't know, but I mean, like, they'd have to be bringing in somebody pretty remarkable.
The all-time leading team goal scorer, and he gets exercised out on a middle of the season play where anyone would have taken him. Like, it's not like they're stretching to find someone to take this albatross contract off their hands. Doesn't make sense for me. They traded Jack McGlynn earlier this season. Like, that didn't make any sense to us with what the team was looking to do. But it does, I guess, signal that they are getting very impatient, and that they're getting hopeful new players. That's all I could say. That was kind of my transition into my worst of the week, because I couldn't decide between two, so I figured I would kind of shoehorn that in the first segment. Worst of the week that I saw was Jonathan Bamba. I mean, we're talking about underproducing designated players, and Chicago is a good team. I like what they bring to the world. I like that they're playing a better brand of soccer than they've played in the recent past. But yesterday they hosted Inter Miami to a 0-0 draw. They had 1.23 expected goals to Miami's 0.97 expected goals. 7 of 16 shots on target. They converted 0 of 5 big chances. And they held just about 50% possession, I think 47%. But it was Bamba for me at the very end of the game. He had a couple of breakaways that absolutely need to be in the back of the net. I know you talked about Zinkernagel. He had 1 miss and 1 woodwork. So like these things just add up over the course of a game. 1.23 expected goals with none finding the back of the net, when you had a chance to go in and just hit Inter Miami in the mouth. Like
you have to. You have to do it. You have to take advantage of those opportunities. And Chicago gets out with a draw at home, but like, I just don't care. The Zinkernagel one really bothered me. It's like the 27th or 28th minute. He's one-on-one with the goalie, and he just blasts it against the near side post. The finishing from Chicago was bad. And to their credit, they didn't really give up a lot to Miami.
Let's take a look for the people who are watching at home. This is Bamba on the breakaway. You see he's going to get off. This is off of a corner for Miami.
Bad corner.
He gets the ball, passes over to, I believe that is to Farai.
Great pass back.
I mean,
he lets
it get right to the goalie.
Right to the goal. He lets it get caught under his feet a little bit. You're going to see this right at the end here as we go. Look, he's clearing the defense here. Everything's fine. This is
So
fine.
that was a Haile Selassie that he passed it over to.
He's got space and time, but he lets it get caught under his feet a little bit, and then he just is not able to really
Yeah.
step through that shot. But it's really poor finishing because he just shoots it right into the goalie.
That's really funny that I got those two. Did you recognize the reference on that I mistakenly called these two players by different names?
I missed it.
So I called Haile Selassie Tafari because like Haile Selassie is the king of Ethiopia, who the Tafari, like the Rastafari religion, like thinks was the next savior. So it's like this weird connection that I'm like thinking too much. Watched too many Bob Marley documentaries this weekend and scuffing up the show. Well, Scott, what is the worst you saw this week?
All right, the worst thing I saw this week was a defensive sequence from Austin. It's Brian White's second goal of the game. And look, the whole thing comes off of a turnover from a goal kick, actually. Stuver just kicks it right up the middle into Vancouver's midfield. It's to nobody. Vancouver transitions really well back into offense. But Austin, this is about Austin. Austin doesn't put any pressure on the ball. The two center backs, especially criminal. I'm going to use that word criminal in this play. Don't put any pressure on the ball, and then just no line discipline. And I think it's Heinz Ike is the guy that is most at fault here because he just, for no apparent reason, takes steps back 5 yards and keeps Brian White on sides, allows Brian White to rotate actually across the 18-yard box to sit in behind his other center back partner. And then it's an easy pass and finish.
Yeah.
And it's just the worst thing. Any middle school team would be running laps until they puked for that kind of a mistake. Just really, really bad fundamental, defense. And I have no sympathy for Austin for giving up 5 goals with effort like that.
Yeah, it's really bad. And that's kind of the thing about Brian White. Like, as good as he is, you don't see him score bangers very much. He just is solid in position, cool on the ball. Like, yeah. I'll watch him pass the ball into the back of the net on highlights all day long. Like, just that's all you have to do in a lot of these situations,
He is. The commentator actually says this in the highlight. He says, "Is there anybody cooler in front of goal than Brian White right now?" The answer to that is kind of no. And it's true. A lot of players are scorers of great goals, but they are not great scorers of goals. Brian White is a great scorer of goals because he is not flustered in front of goal. And so he just passes it into the net. He sees where the space is and he attacks that space. Doesn't have to bang it every time.
It would be a challenge to find a time that he woofed on a ball. Like it just doesn't happen. I know we give a lot of players a hard time for balls that would be missed a lot more often than you think. You think the net's wide open, but you're running at a weird speed or something. Brian White we don't need excuses when we talk about him. We don't need to say like, oh well, he missed that one because no, he just didn't miss it. And again, you don't need to rip every ball. I was playing in men's league. I mean, I'm sure you see this. I led my team like 2 seasons in a row in our men's league here. And it's a pretty competitive, like some post-college athletes, I am not among them, but you see these guys trying to rip these balls. And like, I led the team in goals and I did not take a shot. Like I did not shoot the ball a single time. I just put it in the back of the net. And that's what Brian White does better than anyone else. And we know he has another level, but he doesn't need it. He can just walk up to the net unseen and put it in the back of the net.
Yeah, it's all about his fundamentals. It's all about intelligent movement, picking his time. Body shape, yep. He's not having to do incredible things because he's got his hips turned the right way. He's already looking at the goal, and then he just passes it into the net. And it helps when, Austin's defense doesn't put him under any sort of pressure.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's head over to the betting segment. We're going to talk about where we were right and where we were wrong this past week. And Scott had a 1-3 week, minus 2.09 units. Myself, I was 4-2 with one push on the Minnesota draw no bet. Likely enough, me and Dion, who was here on our Thursday show, he took Toronto draw no bet, and I took Minnesota draw no bet. And if that happens again, we need to have someone just hammering the draw, because that was the likeliest, I guess, outcome there. However, the show plus 0.61 units. That is our 7th winning week of 8 weeks. Last week was our only week that the show was not profitable. We were down 0.21 units, still almost right there. We're having a great season so far, up 14.71 units over 8 matches, and we are just under a quarter of the way through the season. Just under a quarter. So let's hear where I was right, because I pulled the clip, because I'm so bright. And this, you'll hear a little, I think Dion kind of set me up for one here. Let's take a listen about my prediction about Portland visiting Sporting KC.
Joveljic continued to do well. He played good against St. Louis last week, and I think that Sporting Kansas City could get it done at home and win 2 in a row.
I wouldn't be shocked if Sporting KC went to August without winning 2 straight matches. Like, they are bad as a club. I can't take the Portland Timbers at plus 210, but I can take the draw no bet at plus 140. That is our one official play in this match. Nice. Yeah, and I was wearing the Portland Thorns jersey in that video, if you didn't catch that that little one back there. Really, really interesting game for me. Portland did end up winning by a lot. Looking back, I might have been wrong saying I couldn't take the plus 210. I certainly could have taken it, and I possibly should have. But 1.00 XG for Portland, 2.17 for Sporting KC, 6 goals total. The XG numbers did not live up to it. Joveljic had a penalty miss and 2 big chances missed, so there could have been a little more that Sporting KC had there. Portland looked cool. They looked calm. They didn't look like they were ever in any trouble. They could have poured even more on. David DaCosta, 3 misses, 3 missed big chances in this, 0.48 XG, and that is half of the team's XG. The other 4 goals could not contribute another half of an XG to that number. David Ayala looked good. Kevin Kelsey's looking good. Anthony still contributing. I mean, Portland on the road, that's what I did not expect. They're always great at home. Even when they're bad, they're great at home. But I did not expect them to win on the road.
Something about this offense. There's a depth to this offense and the players that they have.
It's Anthony. That's like the missing piece from last year.
Yeah. I mean, last year's offense was electric for most of the season.
And in this match, at the end of the match, we did get a cameo. We got a return to the active lineup for Jonathan Rodriguez. He stepped on the pitch for the first time. So I'm going to be very interested to see how that goes. Felipe Mora, it's been okay, but no one up top is really contributing. Kevin Kelsey, I shouldn't say that. Kevin Kelsey had 2 goals in this matchup. But I just think having, Anthony full-time on one side, Moreno on the other, DaCosta, then you get Jonathan Rodriguez a little bit up top or move him to the wing. It just adds another layer. There's going to be so much interplay with what the top of this club does. Pantemis in goal, looking really good. He's not supposed to be their starter, but like Crepeau, had that injury, and now Pantemis played so well. It's kind of hard to even take him off the field. The back line has some issues. They let SK score twice. But I think it's a good squad.
Shades of last year from the defense, to be honest. The thing that is really interesting too, as you're mentioning all the interplay that they could have, Phil Neville has a chance here to be really clever with his team to set them up to take advantage of specific, matchup types, right? To use different combinations of players to give his team a different look, to take advantage of a weakness that, they spot in another team. He doesn't have to roll out the same, group of 4 every week and say, oh, well, this is just my best group. He can deliberately, play Jonathan Rodriguez down the middle or off to the wing if it gives him a better look. You know what I mean? It's an interesting thing to see if he's able to take advantage of that.
Love it. Now, Scott, you were right on one pick, and we were on the same side of this. We both had an underplay, although my underplay was for the home team and the under, and yours was just straight for the under.
Yeah, I really wanted to divest myself from the result because
This is Charlotte versus Montreal at Montreal, by the way.
This is Charlotte versus Montreal at Montreal, and Charlotte's offense has not particularly, impressed me. I loved the signing of Zaha. There were a few moments early season where I was starting to think, oh boy, this team is getting an offense to go along with their really strong defense. That hasn't really continued to pan out. There's still time for that, but for a while now, it's been a bit rough. But defense travels, right? You can set up and you can be solid defensively if you go to, Yankee Stadium, or if you play on turf or whatever. Like, there's so many field variables that might affect your offense, but defensively, like, you can be sound. Your shape can be set. You know what you're going to do. You can have your game plan. And Charlotte is good at that. And Montreal has not really impressed me at all this season. I don't know what they are good at. I think they got a little new manager bump after firing Laurent Courtois, or whatever. I just messed up his name. But I think they got a new little manager bump, but they're not doing anything otherwise to deserve that bump. So I just looked at this. I was like, it's an under. It's an under. There's no way.
You might have been wrong by XG numbers. CF Montreal 1.77 expected goals. Found the back of the net 0 times, 2 of 18 shots on target with 70% possession. Waterman left with an injury. That's not looking good for Montreal moving forward. And on Charlotte's side, you had Ream leave with an injury. We don't know how serious any of those are. We won't for some time. But it was Fernando Alvarez for Montreal making an error that led to the goal there. Pep Biel 16 minutes in. That's all they needed. Player of the game, Adelson Malanda. 17 clearances, 3 blocks, 3 tackles. That's a really good game there. And although you had Charlotte with a plus 5.7 XG, they scored. They leave with the win. Kerwin Vargas, one time he hit the woodwork, one missed big chance. So it's more of the same from Kerwin Vargas. I'm sure we can't wait to get him back off the field. Once Zaha returns from his surgery, he had a little thumb surgery. Shouldn't really keep him for too long.
No. 2.25 or something like that. Expected goals total. Expected goals on target, by the way, because Montreal, 18 total shots, but only 2 shots on target in this game. Hard to score any goals if you only have 2 shots on target. Their 1.77 expected goals turned into 0.69 expected goals on target. So that's where you really see that coming away.
Yeah, for sure. And where I was wrong, I actually picked this match. I said I was going to trust Montreal on their return home. They started 7 games away. They've always been a little better at home than on the road. Again, they did win the XG numbers. They had some opportunity, could not bury it in the end. Charlotte FC plus 180 if you had them. Did not like that. I guess if we're playing unders, we really should be favoring the away teams. A little more chaos being involved there. I need to see something from CF Montreal, like 2 draws, 6 losses. I get you've only had 1 home game, but that's why I was giving you the bump. I was giving you the shadow of the doubt. What's good for Montreal, if they can figure it out, because of that early 7-game road trip, they do have a lot of back-to-back home matches, so maybe they can pick something up here. But looking at the squad, like who are they missing? Oh, they're injured DP. Vrioni, like that's not making anything better, right?
No, you do. You look at this squad and you think, this is it.
When is Serwa going to get benched? He hasn't been good. He hasn't covered himself in glory by any means.
I don't see anything in this team though that really excites me, and I feel bad saying that. There's in some ways there's not a ton wrong with this team, but like this is what Vancouver could be if everybody on Vancouver, instead of playing up to their potential, played down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I could see that because Vancouver does, but Montreal has no stars. Like on Vancouver, yeah, their back line and some of their midfield isn't really living up to what it's built, but Sabi's playing better than he was. Vite, Andre Kubas, he could be on any team, and then Berhalter's playing. Berhalter's their best rated player on their, maybe after Brian White's show last night that had changed.
Well,
but like
Brian
if you
White
go
got
through
it
the
right
season ratings by just about any website, I like SofaScore. He is the top ranked player on this squad.
I hear you, but like Piet is a nice player. I think Piet would make a lot of squads. Okay, looking at their lineup, there's not a lot that I really am like.
I do my depth chart by color and like I color code them, and like elite top tier players are pink. Red is like a high quality like player of the year type candidate. Orange is like average starter, and then I go. It's basically the rainbow going down. And Montreal has no one above an orange. No reds, no pinks. Just
yeah. I don't know. There's a couple of guys maybe I expect a little bit more from. Prince Owusu is one of those guys.
Yeah, sure.
There were moments for Toronto last year that I thought, hey, there's a player here. There were also moments where I looked at that guy and I was like, is he really a professional? But I don't know.
So let's go to where you were wrong. And this is, one that kind of killed me this week because we didn't have a full contingent for our show. So we're trying to kind of guess why you made that play. There were 3 pro Dallas plays on our team sheet. They hosted Seattle Sounders. I was screaming into the microphone on mute because I don't want to interrupt other people. If you were there, maybe I would have interrupted you. Dallas over Seattle, man. And Seattle's one of those teams, like, they're not great, but they can beat you just about anywhere. Like
they can.
They're what Red Bull were last year. And Red Bull aren't that team anymore. Red Bull aren't going to be any team on the road. Seattle Sounders kind of can, and they did it with like 4 injured players. PDLV, Masovsky, and Kosarianzi all subbed off with injuries. Again, this could be very minor stuff. We have no information on that right now, but I mean, they get the win, 1.47 XG, 1 goal. That was Masovsky. I remember the announcer, a little excited, yelling, "The moose is loose."
It's a good one for him. I'm actually quite happy for Masovsky.
Is it a good one?
It is. The moose is loose. But honestly, I don't think you should bust that out until he scores like 2 goals. Look, the reason that I was willing to pick against Seattle is because Seattle's road form has been worse than terrible this season. You watch them play at home and you watch them play on the road. 2 different teams. The team that shows up on the road is like some weird copy of the players. It's like they all have twins who are not actually good at soccer. And that's who shows up in Seattle uniforms on the road. They had like 1 draw and 3 losses going into this and no wins. So I was like, okay, this is a good time for Dallas to actually turn something around, get stuff going, because Dallas has a lot of talent, especially in the offensive portion of the field. And Dallas has talent that can hurt you in different ways. And we saw that at different times really early in the season for a couple of games. And then they shut it off like a light switch, man. They have turned that off. And that's where I was wrong, is I was putting a little bit of faith in Dallas. And I was like, Lucho Acosta, Petter Musa, Anderson Julio, like one of those guys is going to do something. And they didn't. 0.42 expected goals, 10 total shots, 0 shots on target.
0. None.
0. Big old goose egg shots on target. That massively disappointing to me, but you want to know where I was really wrong. That's it. 0 shots on target.
Yeah. Musa subbed off at the half with an injury again. I need to say it again. We will have no idea how serious that was for at least 5 more days. Player of the game for FC Dallas was Iragadi. That's what I'm going with until someone corrects me. 1 block, 1 interception, 2 tackles, 11 of 17 duels won, 45 of 53 passing. He's one of the new center backs there. He's fantastic match for him, although we might not have too much other positives to point towards in this match. All right, Scott. I've been busy working on some spreadsheets, getting all the graphics out, win-loss percentage, some advanced analytics. I been working with some AI stuff for some behind-the-scenes stuff here. That's going to be rolled out over the next few weeks. You're going to see some really cool graphics that we're making, including home win, loss, and draw percentages from advanced analytics and this guy's head. For each and every match, and then the same thing for over and under 2.5 and 3.5 goals. So make sure you follow us on Twitter. I am Bob V Soccer, and Scott is Scott Omer 13. You could find us. Go hit us up there. You can share anything before or after each match, and if you have any good points, we'll talk about them on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and thank you for joining us on the Designated Pundits.